There's a sentence, a quiet, powerful sentence that doesn't need to be screamed, argued, or explained. It simply ends the game. But before I share it with you, I want to take you somewhere deeper. In this episode, we're not reacting, we're recalibrating. Psychologist Jordan Peterson sits with Dr. Elena Moore, a trauma-informed therapist who's helped survivors of narcissistic abuse break the psychological grip of emotional manipulation. Their conversation isn't about confrontation, it's about regulation, about healing, about reclaiming the one thing no narcissist can touch your inner center. This isn't about fighting fire with fire. It's about learning how to stay calm in the middle of the storm. Because when you master your nervous system, you become immovable. You become untouchable. That's the daily motivation we're here for. Not hype, not rage, but radical clarity. In the next parts of this video, we'll show you why reactivity fuels control, how calm presence becomes your greatest defense, and how to reclaim your voice without ever raising it. But before we go further, comment below. What's one moment when silence gave you more power than words ever could? Let's start there, because once you see the game, you don't play it. You end it. Why they feed on your reaction and fear your calm. Let's get something straight from the beginning. Narcissists aren't afraid of your anger. They want your anger. It tells them they still have access to you. Every time you shout, defend, explain, or chase, they're winning. Why? Because you're reacting. You're showing them that you're still locked in, still emotionally invested, still hoping for something real in a game built on illusion. This is how the cycle begins. It's not just about manipulation, it's about energy. Narcissists operate like emotional predators, constantly scanning for ways to extract control. And their favorite weapon isn't cruelty, it's confusion. They blur the line between love and harm. Push your buttons, twist your words, and then step back and ask, why are you overreacting? But here's what they don't expect. Stillness. Stillness doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean letting things slide. It means anchoring yourself in your body, in your breath, in your truth, so you're no longer pulled into their storm. It means choosing not to respond just because they've created chaos. It means understanding that not everything deserves your energy, your explanation, or your reaction. This is where daily motivation becomes more than a buzzword. It becomes survival. It becomes spiritual resistance. When you wake up each day and choose regulation over reactivity, presence over panic, you are not just healing, you are becoming someone they cannot reach. Because presence is a frequency they can't manipulate. Narcissists thrive in emotional intensity because it keeps you off balance. It keeps you questioning yourself, chasing closure, proving your worth. But when you step back and say nothing, not out of weakness, but out of knowing, they start to lose grip. Your calm exposes their chaos. Your clarity reveals their distortion. And that is terrifying to them. Because narcissists rely on your doubt to survive. They use your guilt as currency. They rely on your nervous system being stuck in survival mode so you can't see clearly. But when you stop reacting and start observing, the spell starts to break. You start to see the script for what it is: predictable, rehearsed, manipulative. The insults, the guilt trips, the silent treatments, they lose their sting when you stop personalizing them, when you stop thinking, what did I do wrong, and start asking, why am I still engaging with this? You change the narrative entirely. This isn't about being passive. This is about being powerful in a different way, a deeper way. Not power over them, but power within you. This kind of clarity doesn't show up overnight. It's built choice by choice, breath by breath. That's why daily motivation matters. Not for hype, but for discipline. You train your mind not to take the bait. You train your body to stay calm in conversations meant to provoke you. You rewire yourself from reaction to response. And every time you do, you reclaim another piece of your power. Now I want you to think about a moment when someone pulled you into an argument you didn't even believe in. You knew it was bait. You felt it, but you responded anyway. That's the grip we're breaking today. Comment below. What's one trigger you've started to recognize but haven't fully stopped reacting to yet? Let's talk about it. Because in part 2, we're going even deeper into the nervous system and why regulation is not just self-care. It's your shield. Regulate your nervous system. Reclaim your power. Most people think healing is about learning to fight better. Say the right comeback. Set the perfect boundary. Walk away at the right time. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, the real battleground isn't in your words, it's in your nervous system. The war starts long before you open your mouth. It starts in your chest, in your breath, in the tightening of your stomach when you get that message or hear that familiar tone in their voice. And if you're not grounded, if you're not present in your body, they'll hijack your emotions before you even realize it. This is what narcissists are skilled at. Not just manipulation, but dysregulation. Their words are crafted to make your heart race, your voice rise, your thoughts scatter. That's their playground. The moment you lose connection with your body, you become easier to control. And that's where the loop begins. Reaction, confusion, regret, over and over. But here's the shift when you learn to regulate your nervous system. You take that playground away from them. You stay rooted when they try to unground you. You breathe slowly when they want you to spiral. And that changes everything. Because a regulated person is powerful. They're unpredictable. They don't play the game. They don't follow the script. And narcissists don't know how to control what they can't provoke. This is where daily motivation becomes your weapon. Not motivation in the usual sense. Not just getting up early or pushing through discomfort, but the motivation to come back to yourself every single day, to breathe deeply when panic hits, to pause instead of lash out, to say nothing when everything in you wants to scream. That's discipline. That's strength. That's freedom. Emotional regulation doesn't mean you tolerate abuse. It doesn't mean you pretend things are fine. It means you stay calm enough to see clearly, and from that clarity, you make conscious decisions. You begin to recognize the pattern. Love bombing, blame shifting, gaslighting, guilt. You feel it coming, but instead of getting pulled in, you take a breath. You get still. And in that stillness, you reclaim authority over your own internal world. That's the kind of strength no one can fake. Narcissists want you in survival mode. They want your inner child to take over. The scared, insecure part of you that's chasing validation, terrified of abandonment, hungry for peace. But the moment you switch from survival to presence, their grip loosens. They start to feel it. That they can no longer reach you. That their words aren't landing the way they used to. That you've started to choose your peace over their approval. And here's the key. They don't need to understand your boundary for it to be effective. They don't need to respect your calm for it to be powerful. You don't need their validation to know what's real, because the more regulated you become, the more you stop performing. You stop defending. You stop proving. You simply exist in your truth, and that truth speaks louder than any reaction ever could. So today, ask yourself, what triggers your nervous system the most in these interactions? Is it a tone, a phrase, the silence? Name it. Write it down, and more importantly, breathe through it. Practice being still in the presence of the storm, because that stillness is your shield, that clarity is your sword, and that is the kind of daily motivation that rebuilds your life from the inside out. In part 3, we'll go deeper into the power of calm truth and how speaking from neutrality dismantles even the most manipulative tactics. If you're ready for that kind of strength, stay with me. Calm truth cuts, deeper than rage. Let's make something clear. Narcissists don't fear confrontation. In fact, they invite it. They crave the chaos. They want you reactive, stumbling, emotionally charged. Because in that space, they control the narrative. They twist your words, flip the script, and frame you as unstable. That's how the cycle continues. You react, they reframe, and suddenly you're the problem. But there's a kind of truth that breaks the cycle completely, and it doesn't come from yelling. It doesn't come from long explanations. It comes from calm, from a voice that doesn't rise, from a tone that doesn't need to prove, from a grounded energy that says, I don't need you to believe me because I already do. That's the power of calm truth. It lands differently. It exposes the illusion without ever pointing a finger. When you speak calmly from your center, you remove their favorite weapon, your emotional instability. There's no drama to deflect, no fire to manipulate, no chaos to redirect. You've stepped off their stage, and now they're left performing in an empty theater. Narcissists thrive on emotional volatility, but calm is confusing. It doesn't match their rhythm. It doesn't play into the script. It disrupts their control without confrontation. And that's exactly what terrifies them. This is why daily motivation matters, not just for the good days, but especially for the ones where you're tempted to scream, explain, or beg. Motivation here is about self-regulation, self-respect, and the daily decision to stay centered in your truth, no matter who's trying to drag you out of it. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to explain to be valid. The most powerful truths don't defend themselves, they stand. And when you speak from a place of knowing, not needing the entire dynamic shifts, you're not fighting to win an argument. You're not hoping to be believed. You're simply drawing a line that doesn't move. This is where freedom lives, not in the outcome, not in their reaction, but in your ability to speak your truth and walk away fully anchored in your own clarity. Calm truth sounds like this. This conversation isn't healthy for me. I'm not available for this dynamic anymore. I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't resonate as truth, or sometimes silence, just walking away. Each of those statements carries weight, not because they're loud, but because they're final. They come from awareness, not defense, from peace, not panic. And the moment you speak that way, you change the rules of the game. You're not a player anymore. You're the observer. The mirror. And mirrors are dangerous to people who are hiding. Because when their tactics stop working, they're forced to confront the truth of who they are and the fact that their illusion no longer holds power over you. So here's your challenge today. Think about the last time you lost your calm to prove your point. What would have changed if you spoke your truth quietly and walked away? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about what calm clarity looks like for you, because daily motivation is more than just action, it's intention. It's living in alignment with your truth, even when you're tempted to abandon it. In part 4, we're going to bring it all together. Awareness, regulation, and truth, and reveal the one sentence that ends the cycle. The one sentence that narcissists cannot defend against. If you're ready for that moment, stay with me. The sentence that ends the game. There comes a moment in every survivor's journey when the fog clears, when the story that used to confuse you suddenly becomes obvious, when the patterns stop feeling personal and start looking familiar. That moment is sacred because it means the trance has broken, the illusion has cracked, and you're finally seeing what was always there. That's when the sentence becomes clear. I see what you're doing and it won't work anymore. Not screamed, not dramatic, just spoken like a quiet thunderclap. Because that sentence holds power not because it confronts the narcissist, but because it awakens you. It signals the end of the loop, the end of chasing, fixing, explaining, or hoping they'll change. It's not a threat, it's a truth. A declaration that you've stepped off their game board for good. This is the power of daily motivation in its purest form. Not external hustle, but internal alignment. The strength to sit in your clarity without needing anyone else to understand it. Without needing the narcissist to apologize or admit anything. Because once you see it, you don't need permission to walk away. You simply do. And here's why that sentence lands so hard. Because for so long they've counted on your confusion, on your doubt, on your desire to keep the peace. They've counted on you thinking, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I misunderstood. But this sentence shuts all of that down. It cuts through the noise and says, I know the pattern. I know the play. I'm not part of it anymore. That's why it's so destabilizing for them. Narcissists don't fear conflict. They fear clarity. They fear the version of you that's no longer reactive, no longer needing their approval. no longer negotiating your worth. They fear the version of you that no longer asks for closure because you've already given it to yourself. That's where emotional freedom begins. The real shift doesn't happen when you leave the narcissist. It happens when you stop giving them access to your nervous system. When your energy no longer spikes in their presence. When your voice stays calm, your eyes stay focused, your boundaries stay firm. That's what "it won't work anymore" really means. It means I'm not available to be manipulated because I know what you're doing and I know who I am now. And the beauty of this sentence is that it's not just a line, it's a threshold. You only speak it when something fundamental has changed inside of you, when you've anchored into your truth so deeply that you no longer need to be believed in order to stand in it. That's real. Daily motivation to show up for yourself, day after day, breath after breath, until the game they've been playing doesn't even make sense to you anymore. So I want you to take a breath. Feel that sentence in your body. Say it out loud if you're ready, or write it in the comments. I see what you're doing and it won't work anymore. Let it be your declaration. Let it echo as the beginning of something new. In part 5, we'll complete this journey with the lesson that healing isn't loud. Control isn't power, and real strength isn't about revenge. It's about sovereignty, and you're already standing in it. Healing is sovereignty, not sound. You might think healing happens when they finally say sorry, when they admit what they did, when justice arrives, clean and undeniable, but that's not where it happens. Real healing is quieter than that. It doesn't come with closure, it comes with clarity. And most of the time, clarity doesn't scream. It doesn't need to. It just is. That's the moment you realize you don't need the apology. You don't need them to get it. You don't need them to validate what you already know. Because you've stopped waiting. You've stopped handing your peace to someone who profits from your confusion. Narcissists don't lose power when you yell back. They lose power when you no longer need anything from them, when you no longer chase, when you stop hoping they'll change, when you've moved beyond the illusion that their approval means something. That's when the grip breaks, and that's where sovereignty begins. Energetic sovereignty isn't some vague idea, it's a lived experience. It's what happens when you regulate your nervous system, reclaim your space, and stop abandoning yourself for temporary connection. It's when you walk into the same room that used to shake you and stay grounded, when their words try to trigger you but your body stays calm, when you see the game but no longer feel the urge to play. That's not weakness, that's mastery. And here's the truth. It doesn't always feel dramatic. It might not look like a triumphant ending. Sometimes it's just a moment of stillness. A breath, a pause, a quiet decision to not reply, to let the silence speak for you. And in that silence, you'll find something they could never offer you: peace. This is what daily motivation really is. It's not just pushing through a workout or hustling harder. It's waking up each day and choosing presence over panic, choosing truth over reaction, choosing alignment over approval. It's remembering that your worth was never theirs to decide. You don't need to become colder to protect yourself. You need to become clearer. And when that clarity is paired with regulation, it creates a boundary no narcissist can cross. Not because you're fighting them, but because you're no longer available for chaos. This is the end of the cycle. Not with revenge, not with explosive endings, but with sovereignty. With a kind of calm, so anchored that it reflects everything false in its presence. And here's the beauty of it: once you've felt this kind of peace, the old dynamic becomes unbearable. Not because you hate them, not because you want to punish them, but because your body won't let you betray yourself anymore. So if you're watching this, take a moment, feel into your own energy. What are you still giving to someone who's already shown you who they are? What stories are you still trying to rewrite? What truths are you ready to accept? Comment below. I reclaim my energy. Let it be a marker, a moment where you stop giving yourself away and start coming home. Because this is your power, this is your peace, this is your path back to self, and no one, no narcissist, no manipulator, no past can take that from you when you choose it every single day. This isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of your return. And that return starts now. This journey wasn't about exposing the narcissist. It was about reclaiming you. Every reaction you didn't give, every breath you took, instead of breaking every time you chose silence over chaos. That was the healing. That was the moment you stepped into your power. And that's what daily motivation truly means. Not chasing hype, but choosing clarity, choosing presence, choosing yourself every single day. You don't need permission to walk away. You don't need anyone to understand your boundaries for them to be valid. Your calm is enough. Your awareness is enough. And from this day forward, your energy belongs to you, not to their manipulation, not to their games, not to the past. If this spoke to something deep in you, comment below. I choose peace over reaction. Let it be your declaration. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, send it to them. Subscribe for more content built, not just to inspire, but to liberate. Because daily motivation isn't about doing more. It's about being more grounded.